SuperMexInternational.com.
And I'm back after 1 week. It's SuperMex International in return. And we've covered quite a bit over the last 2 weeks. I think last week I mentioned that generously this is my 5th show that I've been on and enjoying it definitely, and I've said this before, comfortable, having a good time, relaxed. You gotta love the fact that you can talk about serious issues and get out to a large, broad audience. And I believe, we've covered some more weighty matters over the last couple of weeks. The first 2 weeks, I had a number of guests on that people that, out of obligation, you got to hook up the people that take care of you. So I had some people come on that were, friends, and not necessarily all family, but definitely friends, and people that are strong supporters of, just intellectual material that isn't talked about or discussed. The kind of stuff that, you go to a backyard barbecue or you hang out with friends at a dinner and they say, hey, let's not talk about that. Let's keep it all friendly and nice. Well, my philosophy is, and I was told this by an old drill sergeant, an old sergeant when I was getting out of service, if you can't talk about something because it's offensive in an intellectual way, then we've got a serious problem in this country. And that was a number of years ago. I won't give you the number exactly. I will leave it alone. I'll date myself. But the term and the concept is right. If you can't talk about weighty material, if you're afraid, if you're afeared of discussing important events and issues that are current and recent, and that will, even heaven forbid, in the future be a problem or not a problem, then as a country we have a problem. And as an adult, and here's where I lay it on you, and again, my target audience being you young dudes out there, young Hispanics, young minorities, young dudes in general, doing your thing. If you're afraid to talk about some issues because you may not know that much about them, that's an excuse. That's point blank. That's just an excuse. Don't let that happen to you. If there's something you don't know, educate yourself on it. And education doesn't mean going to a 4-year institution and getting a degree or earning a master's or PhD and being an expert on the subject. I've met people that were incredibly knowledgeable with a high level of expertise in a variety of fields that had no piece of paper attached and no initials following or preceding their name. You don't need that. All you need is a love to learn. You got to have that. One of the terms that I remember vividly coming out of education, now that I'm done with it, and it's left over with me, kind of a watchword, is to be a lifelong learner. And I definitely categorize myself there. I mean, without a doubt, lifelong learner. Learner in the sense that you're constantly striving to intake more information, whatever that information may be, in whatever avenue, whatever profession, whatever arena that you choose to pursue your goals or endeavors. So let's keep that as a watchword. Be a lifelong learner. And again, don't let how do we put this? How do we term this? Don't let people or groups or entities that are a little more arrogant than you or myself hinder you from being a lifelong learner. So if you're reading a book and somebody sees you reading that book and they want to pass themselves off as the knowledgeable font of information because maybe they have a degree of some kind, or again, a little piece of paper. That cracks me up, a little piece of paper. They have knowledge information. And they say, oh, what are you reading? And they, oh, I read that. That's how it starts. And that's usually when you're young and you're made to feel less than, what you are or what you could be. And you feel a little ashamed because so-and-so knows more, has done more. The hell with that. Don't even listen to that. Don't abide by it. Don't let somebody else hinder your honorable road. In Latin, it's cursus honorum, the honorable way, your honorable road to a profession or where you're going to go. So be a savage about reading and information. I love to do that. My boy uses it all the time. I say, be an information savage. You can quote that. An information savage. Just don't be satisfied not knowing. No more. Knowledge and information, for the most part, is free. We can get into that debate later, but Knowledge and information it's out there for it. If you want, man, I've met some incredibly bright and gifted, and without the bright attached, very knowledgeable and wise people that have made use of and taken advantage of the system in the form of public libraries, their public educations, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There are ways and there are avenues in which to go about doing that without you being extremely wealthy or breaking the bank. I mean, you can do that. I mean, I've talked earlier and often about SuperMex's lists of information, and I think I'm just going to have to end up publishing those babies. Small, bite-sized bits of information. We talked about this, I think, 2 weeks ago. Small, bite-sized bits of information that are palatable, that are digestible. And now you're hungry because I'm right before the lunch hour. Don't eat before SuperMex show is done. I don't want you slobbing on me. So they're small in the sense that they're really, again, like I said a week ago, meat and potatoes of information. You want to talk about the things that are most pertinent. Now, being an old history guy and a history instructor, I use that term. I may have even used it on the show, but I know I use it all the time, and I use this with students. Even though I don't teach anymore, I use it with my wrestlers, I use it with fighters, I use it with people and young people that are around me. The term being, you cannot know enough, and you have to take advantage of the fact that, these nuts and bolts of information that are in the form of history are names, dates, people, places, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Names, date, people, places. And then you get the history instructor who maybe was your teacher in high school or middle school. And I'm going to catch a lot of hell for this later, but I'm going to do it anyway because it's important. They say history is not just all about names, dates, people, and places. So you hear that term and you guess, you say, okay, well, no, it's not. And then they talk about theory and concept, and they talk about these important ideas, these movements that take hundreds, if not thousands of years to progress to. Fascism in the first to middle part of the 20th century. The Renaissance at the back end of the 1300s into the 1400s and right into the early 1500s. The scientific revolution immediately after and preceded by the Renaissance immediately into 1500s to 1600s. These things didn't just appear overnight, and they weren't just standalone events. They were led to by a series of events and movements and societies that all progressed to this one point in time that led to this thing, this movement, this event, etc., etc. So it isn't just about names, dates, history, and places. Names, dates, people, and places. But, and you can quote me on this, and you can quote me big time. If you're out there and a history teacher tells you that history is not just about names, dates, people, and places, and then is dismissive of those self-same things, they're not a good history teacher. They suck. And you can quote me on that. Because history, as a structure and as a framework, right from the very first beginnings of what history was, Historiae, Herodotus, the very first book that you can say that was a work of history. That concept, that Western, European, Western civilization concept that is history, is about names, dates, people, and places. And if you don't know what names, dates, people, and places are in a context, then you can't know theory, concept, idea, philosophy, etc. So again, and I'll leave you with that as we break to our next segment. Remember this: if you have a history teacher, or you know somebody that's trying to pass themselves off as as that font of information, and they tell you it's not all about names, date, people, and places, tell them they suck, and you can quote me on that. SuperMex will be right back.